Hi, I'm Chelsea of Friday Pattern Company, and today we're doing a sew-along for the Avenir Jumpsuit. The Avenir Jumpsuit is a vintage Friday Pattern Company style that we retired for a little while so that we could add sizes and tweak the instructions, and now it's back. Available in extra small through 7X, so that's up to a 60-inch chest. The fabric I'm using for my version is an 8-ounce denim that I got at Fabrics R Us in San Jose. They're not online, but I liked the color of this wash, and I wanted to make it in a sturdier fabric because you'll see versions that are in drapier fabrics and it's just a totally different look, and it's cool how versatile it is depending on the fabric that you use. The Avenir Jumpsuit is a raglan sleeve jumpsuit that is brought in at the neckline and waist with elastic, and it has options for these short sleeves or long sleeves that are also brought in with elastic. It's pretty easy to sew and fit, and I think that there's a lot of potential for making it one time as like a traditional jumpsuit, and then there's so many like hacks, and it's a great jumping off point for kind of designing your own jumpsuit, dress, shirt. We've got a lot of hacks coming in the coming weeks, and we're pretty excited about them. So I'm really excited about this jumpsuit and the sew-along, so let's get started. So you want to cut your pieces out in your desired size, and you're going to want to make sure that you have 1/2 inch elastic on hand, matching thread, and a safety pin. Make sure that you've snipped all of your notches. So notches are these little lines on your pattern pieces that you snip in on the pattern piece 3/8 of an inch there, and these are used as reference points to help us match the pieces along the way. You're going to cut lengths of elastic for the neckline, the waistband, and if you're making the long sleeve version, the sleeve hems, and the suggested elastic lengths are found in the beginning of the instructions. I'm just measuring this out here and trimming it. These pattern pieces can look similar, so you're going to want to mark on them what they are. So this is my neckline piece, and I'm just going to write on it neckline. You won't see it because this elastic is being sewn into the jumpsuit. Same as we did with the elastic, it is a very good idea to mark your pattern pieces because the sleeve and the front and the back look really similar, especially if you're making the short sleeve version. So I'm just writing on this. This is a erasable pen, but you could use chalk, you could write on a piece of tape. Also, this is the wrong side of the fabric, so this is probably going to be sewn into the sleeve hem anyway. I don't have to worry about it, but just make sure you label all your pieces. Okay, yay, it's time to sew. So right sides together, we are going to pin our front A to our sleeve C, matching the single notches. And that's how you'll know you have it on the right side, is that you're matching up a single notch on the sleeve with a single notch on the arm side of the front piece. And then you'll sew this using a 5/8 inch seam allowance, and you'll repeat that on both sides. Now we're going to join the back piece to our sleeves. So right sides together, pin back piece B to sleeve C, matching the double notches, and just keeping track of that you're pinning everything to the right piece. So we'll match those up, and we'll sew that using a 5/8 inch seam allowance, and you'll do this on both sides. You may have noticed we didn't finish the seams on the last 2 steps. That's because it is easier if you want to do it all at once. You can do all 4 of these seams now. You can finish your seams using a zigzag stitch, or you could bind them. I'm going to be serging them, and this is how it looks finished. And you're going to press your seams towards your sleeves. Even after the Avenir is sewn, the back and the front look really similar for when you're like putting it on. So now is a good opportunity, if you have one, to sew in a tag or like a little piece of ribbon if you want. I have this cute one from Blackbird that I'm going to sew in. I'm just measuring 1 inch down from center back, and then I will just pin and stitch that in place, and it looks so cute. We're going to sew the side seams and underarm seam all in one go, and you're going to want to fold your bodice in half right sides together, so the sleeves are in half, and then the back and front are right sides together along the side seams. Make sure your seam allowances are pressed towards your sleeve, and you're going to want to match up your underarm seam and then the hems on the sleeve and the bodice. And you'll sew this using a 5/8 inch seam allowance, and you'll repeat it on both sides. Once you have those sewn, we'll trim the seam allowances down to 3/8 of an inch just to minimize the bulk on our underarm. And then you will finish the seam and repeat that on both sides. Grab your neckline casing pieces and right sides together. We're gonna sew them along the short ends using our 5/8 inch seam allowance. You're gonna press that seam open, and then we'll fold it in half lengthwise and press it. Now we'll join that casing to our neckline. So you're gonna flip your bodice right side out, and then we'll pin the neckline casing to the neckline, matching up the raw edges of the fabric. The notches match up with the center front and the center back of your necklines, and the seams match up with the notches on your sleeves. So I'm just anchoring each of those matching points, and then I'll go through and add a couple more pins to get it secure. When you sew this seam, you're actually going to leave a 2-inch opening so that you can run your elastic through. So don't sew all the way around. It's hard to remember sometimes. Just that sewn, and I also pressed the seam down towards the bodice. You'll grab your length of neckline elastic and attach a safety pin to the end. And you can stick this into the opening that you left on your neckline, and it runs through the neckline casing and goes all the way around. So you'll just kind of inch it along, scooching the safety pin along as you go. As you're scooching your safety pin along, you want to be careful not to twist your elastic. And then you also, as you pull it through and you're kind of inching it down, you want to make sure that that other loose end of your elastic is not in danger of being pulled into the casing. So if it gets close, just pin it to the bodice. It shouldn't be as much of an issue on this casing, but maybe on the waist casing. A little foreshadowing. And then once you pull it all the way out the other side, you will double check it hasn't been twisted, and then you'll overlap the ends of the elastic by 1/2 inch, and then you can zigzag these together to make a loop, and then we'll work that elastic back into the neckline evenly. Here that is sewn, and now I'm just going to pull on the neckline to distribute the elastic evenly. And you can try this on to make sure the elastic length is good for you. Here's a dramatization of what that might look like. You might want longer or shorter depending on whether you want to wear it like off your shoulders or like up around your neck. A little this, a little that. Anyway, that's all. Once you're happy with it, you can sew up that little 2 inches you left open and then finish this seam. Now you're gonna grab your waistband casing front and back, and you're gonna wanna label these as well. Again, they look very similar. So right sides together, you are going to pin the front to the back, and you're gonna wanna make sure that the notched edges are on the same side, and you'll sew the short ends together using a 5/8 inch seam allowance. And once you've done that, you can press your seam open, and then we are going to press the unnotched upper edge of this waistband casing under 3/8 of an inch. Now we're going to join this to the bodice. So turn your bodice right side out, and then you will pin your casing to the hem of the bodice, matching up the raw edges of the fabric, the edge of the casing that has the notches. So the notch on the front of the casing matches up with center front, and then the notch on the back matches up with center back, and then the side seams of the casing match up with the side seams of the bodice. And you can pin this in place going all the way around the hem of the bodice. We're going to take this to the machine and we're going to edge stitch it in place. So you're edge stitching along that upper folded edge, and you're gonna sew 1/8 of an inch from that fold, and you'll leave a little 2-inch opening that we will eventually run the elastic through for the waistband. Here you can see that finished, so that's just edge stitched in place, the raw edges are matched up, and we have a little opening left. We're gonna set the bodice aside for now and work on the pants. Time to prep the pockets. So you've got 4 pockets, and you're gonna finish the outer edge of all 4, and you can do that in the manner you've been finishing your other seams. So I used a serge stitch. Grab one of your pants front E's, and then we are going to pin right sides together. We're going to pin a pocket to this, matching the notches. And you'll sew this using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And you're gonna do this for both pants front pieces and then also for both pants back pieces. So you've got 4 pockets, 4 pieces of pant, and we'll sew them all together using 1/2 inch seam allowance. Here are all of those sewn up, and now we're going to finish our side seams on both pants front pieces and pants back pieces. So all the way down the side seam on all 4 pieces. And here's our pile of pants. As you can see, these are all finished now. And now we're going to press the pocket out away from the pant and understitch it. So that means that we stitch on the pocket 1/8 inch from that seam, and we're catching the pants underneath. This will stop the pocket from rolling forward, and you're going to repeat that on both pants front and pants back pieces. Right sides together, pin a pants front to a pants back along the side seam and around the pocket. And you're going to sew this using a 5/8 inch seam allowance. You're going to sew down the side seam and pivot onto the pocket. And so you do that at 5/8 inch below the top of the pocket, and you can mark that if you want to make it a little easier to know where it is. So you just make a little dash about 5/8 or 5/8 of an inch below the top of the pocket, and you can do that just on the inside of that understitching seam so that you'll know when you get to that spot that you're going to pivot across, and then repeat that for the bottom. So here that is sewn, and we can take a closer look and see how we pivoted and then go around the pocket, and then same at the bottom where you pivoted, and then you go down the side seam. And you'll repeat this process with your other set of pants front and pants back. Now we're going to sew our inseams. So right sides together, you will match up your inseams on your pants front and your pants back. You can pin those in place and then stitch down them using a 5/8 inch seam allowance. You'll finish this seam, and then you'll repeat this on both sides. And now that that's done, we can sew our crotch seam. With right sides together, you can stuff one pant leg inside of the other is the easiest way to get this seam lined up. And then you're going to match the single notches on the front and the double notches on the back, and you'll just sew all the way around the crotch seam. You'll use your 5/8 inch seam allowance, and then after you're done, you can finish the seam. And now we got some pants. So let's join the bodice to the pants and make this baby a jumpsuit. Right sides together, you can pin the bodice to the pants. You're gonna match up notches and side seams. So you wanna make sure that you're aligning your front with your front and your back with your back. So the notch on center front of your bodice matches up with the front crotch seam. The notch on the center back of your bodice matches up with the back crotch seam, and then the side seams match up with the side seams. You can stitch all the way around this using your 5/8 inch seam allowance, and then you'll finish the seam, and then you will press it down. Here it is all pressed and finished. And now it is time to add the elastic to the waistband. Grab your length of waistband elastic and attach a safety pin to the end, and then you will stick this into the opening that you left when you were sewing the bodice, and we'll start just inching the elastic around the waistband. And just like I recommended with the neckline, make sure you're keeping an eye on that loose end of the elastic that doesn't have the safety pin on it, because if you pull the fullness around and the elastic end gets sucked up into the casing, you have to start over, and it's a whole thing. So just pin that in place if you need to, and then keep working your way around until you pull it out the other side. And then just like we did with the neckline elastic, you'll overlap the ends by 1/2 inch, and then you'll zigzag stitch them to join them in a loop, and then pull it to distribute the elastic around your waistband. After you've done all that, you can close up the little 2 inches you left open by edge stitching the casing in place. All that's left are the hems, and we'll start with the sleeves. I'm making the short sleeve version. So for the short sleeve version, you press the hem edge under 1/2 of an inch, give it a press, and then you're gonna press it under another 1.5 inches and press that. Here those are pressed, and now we'll just edge stitch around the sleeve hem to secure that hem in place. You'll repeat it on both sides. And here is what that looks like all finished. The last step is hemming the pants. So it's similar to what we just did with the sleeve hems, but you'll press the raw edge of your hem under 1/2 inch, press it under another 1/2 inch, press it, and then we'll edge stitch all the way around, repeating on both sides. And here's what that looks like done. And after this, we're done. You made a jumpsuit. Congratulations. Here is the finished jumpsuit, and it's pretty fun because you can wear it a bunch of different ways, like off the shoulder, you can wear it up on one shoulder, you can wear it on no shoulders, it could be up around your neck, you can cuff that sleeve, you can have it uncuffed. Yeah, so I hope that this sew along was helpful and fun for you, and if you choose to sew an Avenir jumpsuit, I hope that you love and treasure it, and yeah, happy sewing!